Welcome to another draft through MTGSpeculation.com. Opened a pretty good pack here. Selesnya Gold Mage is great. Dispatch is great in Affinity, which sort of segues me into the card I'm going to pick, which is Etched Champion, which is borderline unbeatable when you curve into it with artifacts. I'm perfectly happy. Like, this is the type of artifact card that I'll open, pack one, pick one, and say, I'm going to try to make this work because this card is so incredibly good. Affinity. It just doesn't die. It's just so close to unbeatable that I'll take it in this spot 100% of the time in that pack. I'll take Etched Champion, pack one, pick one. Puppeteer Clique is a good card, or Puppeteer Clique. I'm not actually sure how that's pronounced. It's probably Puppeteer Clique. The rest of this pack, Stormblood Berserker, very, very good in Bloodthirst. Nameless Inversion is probably the best card in the pack. Narcolepsy also being very good. Mere Enforcer being an artifact. Someone took a common here, so I'm guessing it's like Kozilek's Predator or a Burst Lightning or something like that. Although personally I would take Puppeteer Clique over Burst Lightning. But I sort of have a predilection towards taking really high value creatures. I'm going to take Nameless Inversion here though. The other option, if I really want to force Affinity, is Narcolepsy and Kami of Ancient Law. I'm very prone to staying open. Okay. So Overwhelming Stampede is a great card. Like, just great. I have two Affinity cards here, Aethercast Knight and Fairy Mechanist. Nameless Inversion does go into like the green-black tokens deck. Oh, this is really tricky. I know that a lot of people think tokens is the best deck in the format. I personally don't agree. I think it can be if you get the right deck, and this is one of the cards that puts you in that deck. So I'm going to take it. This is one of the very few rares where I would just say, yeah, I'll go into, I'll go into tokens. This is the card. So this is another interesting pick because Spread the Sickness and Arrest are both very, very good. I'm not seeing Affinity cards now, really. It's unlikely that I'm getting hated on one of, it's unlikely that it's getting picked super hard that early. Spread the Sickness puts me in like green-black, which isn't the better tokens deck, in my opinion, unless you get a ton of Nest Invaders and Kozilek Predators and Dread Drones, which I prefer to then have be a ramp deck and a sack deck, rather than a pump everybody deck. So I'm going to take a rest here. It also heads towards the champion if I do start to see cards for Affinity, which we just did. There is not a card for tokens here, but there is Sunlance, which goes in both decks. I'm just going to snap that up. Soul Eater goes in both decks. I think it's better than Sunlance on average. Kami of Ancient Law is fine. LG Gariel is great in the tokens deck, but I have no token generators, so I'm going to take Soul Eater. Passing Gariel feels very sad, but that's just kind of the way it goes sometimes. So I'm going to take another Sunlance, and I am passing on a lot of artifacts and decent green cards, so it's a little bit weird in that way so far, but here I don't have a pick outside of Gust Skimmer, in my opinion. Simic Initiate I could run if I really wanted to force tokens, but I'm not in a position where I want to do that, so I'm going to take Gust Skimmer. Dispatch, Tumble Magnet, Rusted Relic. I'm going to take this as a sign. This is my original pack. I'm going to take this as a sign that I'm open in Affinity because Dispatch is insane. Like, absolutely absurd. Take Dispatch And I'm going to cut artifacts really hard from here, including taking things like Mirror Enforcer, which I don't actually like that much. And maybe it's just because I don't like Affinity all that much in general. I don't like forcing an archetype if it's not like really open, and yeah, here it's really open. So these are the times that I end up in Affinity where I feel like it's open early, and I get like the good removal spells right away, things like that. I'll take a Kite Sail. But I mean, Dispatch, Sunlance, Arrest is a premium removal suite for this type of deck. I'll take a Mirror Enforcer here. All three of those were playable in this archetype. So, and I feel good here because 3 artifacts wheeled to me from my original pack, and then I cut really hard from there. So I feel like someone to my left will probably also be hedging because the artifacts weren't cut coming my direction. So I feel like if they're hedging and they didn't see any, or at least not much, in the late in that pack, they might start moving away from it, and I might start to see some of the more mediocre artifact cards come through. Maybe not just the bombs. Like if you open something like Etch Champion or Lodestone Mirror. Wow. Okay. So we made the right decision. I think taking the overwhelming stampede was correct. And I think everything that happened from there just told me, hey, you are 100% in Affinity. Opening this pack here obviously is a little bit different. This is sort of like, hey, there's nothing in Affinity. But this is the first pack, and this is just kind of what happens. Sometimes there are weak packs. But at this point, I am very all in. I have a Metalcraft card, 2 Metalcraft cards, and then 4 cards that are very dependent on me having artifacts. I could take Thoughtcast, which is also dependent on me having artifacts. Fair Mechanist is fine with Mirror Enforcer, but not Thoughtcast. And same thing with Etch Champion Dispatch. Thoughtcast doesn't go well with them. But Sphere of the Suns, I'm not going to first pick just for an artifact because that or Kite Sail will wheel. So I'm probably going to take Thoughtcast here. And just say, hey, I'm the Affinity Drafter. And that's all there is to it. And here's a Mortar Pod, which I'm very happy with. The 2 blue cards aren't great. A rare was taken, so it's not like I'm being cut necessarily, since that was sort of another pack that didn't have a whole lot going on for Affinity. Okay, so another Mortar Pod. A decent white removal spell. I don't have Token Generator, so a second Mortar Pod isn't really what I'm looking for in my opinion. It is another artifact, though, and another good one. This is kind of hard. I have 4 removal spells already, and a lot that's dependent on artifacts, so I'm going to go ahead and take the Mortar Pod. So far, I'm really happy with what's going on. 2 of the best 2-drop artifacts. Probably, outside of having Court Homunculus, which I would love to see one of those. I'm looking at a lot of very good white removal at the 1 spot. Necroskitter is very good. Tajnar Swordsmith right now gets 3 cards. So I think I'm just going to take it. And this is a little bit early for this card, but the upside's much better than Cloud Elemental or Apostle's Blessing. And Flare Husk I just don't like. So I'll go ahead and take that. Flare Husk will probably wheel as well. Okay, so Darksteel Citadel. I'll certainly take over Mana Leak here because I'm on, what's my count here? Let's not count Mirror Enforcer yet. At least for my just baseline artifact count. I'm at 8 and then 10 tentatively because the Mirror Enforcer is sort of dependent upon these. I think it's a Darksteel Citadel, and it's close, but the card is so good with what I'm doing that I just have to take it. Everflowing Chalice, Fortify, Call Me the Ancient Law. Okay. This is a much harder pick. These two blue cards just certainly aren't in the running. Everflowing Chalice doesn't ramp me towards anything. It's basically just an artifact. I think my artifact count's going to be good enough that I'll just take Call Me the Ancient Law here. Okay, another Dispatch. Easy pick, I think. Not even really going to think about that. Okay. So Aether Snipe. And not a whole lot else. We cast instant or sorcery. Yeah, cards just, it takes so much to get it to work. I'll take Aether Snipe here. Okay, so we got this pack back, and actually it's Kite Sail and Kami the Ancient Law. So, kind of unfortunate. I'm not going to run 2 Kami the Ancient Law, and I'm not going to run 2 Kite Sails. I'm certainly not going to run Mighty Leap, so I'll probably just take the Kami the Ancient Law here. And throw it in the sideboard to start with. Take another Whirly Journey. This is probably the Kite Sail, but I'm just going to take that off the sideboard. So getting some stuff late that fits into what we're doing. I'm pretty happy with that. Lots of early drops. Court Homunculus is really the card that I want to see. Because I feel like even though I have, a little bit of late game going on with the Mirror Enforcers, and like the S Champion obviously is great, I really do want to see the big time, damage dealing artifacts. Either whether it's early like Court Homunculus or it's sort of mid game like the Rusted Relics of the world. I want to see those types of cards coming through pretty quick here. Our Argent Sphinx is great. The 2 and white Angel that's a 4/4 flyer would also be nice. Another Dispatch is crazy, and I have to think that's going to wheel. Hellkite Charger actually doesn't scare me that much because my deck should hopefully run underneath those. And Glinthawk Idol is like, I have two dispatches already. This one should wheel, even though this pack's kind of weak. Like Blaze of Veles fails bad, Mighty Leap's terrible, Flare Husk, so 3, 4. But Sylvan Bounty, somebody might take that. Glinthawk Idol's just so good though, and it's an artifact that I think I have to take it. So Sphere of the Sun, Spectral Procession, and Cathodian. So this is another artifact count spot, I think, where I just say, how many do I have? And I have 12. 13. I want to get up to like 17. But this card is so incredibly good and so much better than Cathodian that, oh god, that's so rough though. I'm just going to take it. The power level is just so much higher, even though there's no synergy there really, outside of equipping like a Copper Carapace to them. This card is almost certain to make my deck. Arrest is great, but Blinding Soul Eater is just the pick here, and there's really no doubt about it. I already have an Arrest, 2 Dispatches, 2 Sun Lances. Yeah, and this is an artifact. That's one of the better cards I can ask for there outside of. So I'm pretty happy to get that. Muldrifter is insane, and I'm just going to take it. Maybe pop out the Aether Snipe for that. Keep myself around 24. And the cards that I'm starting to look to replace are these 2, Kami of Ancient Law and Otherworldly Journey. And if I can replace those for artifacts, I'm really happy with my deck. I should be able to pick up, I would think a couple 2-drop sort of garbage artifacts should at least wheel from the first few packs I saw. And it's fairly likely that I start to see some of the, some more of the 2-drop, like the Court Homunculus type cards, hopefully. And that can fill up my deck. I might cut a Kite Sail if I get like a couple Darksteel Citadels or a couple Court Homunculus. Something like another Glinthawk Idol would be insane. Obviously, cranial plating would be insane. It's a little bit optimistic given that we're going to the 5th pick here. But I do feel like Affinity's been super open in this draft. So I feel pretty good. There's also that Dispatch that could wheel. Okay, so yeah, here's the Glinthawk Idol. Exactly the card I want to see, like I was talking about. I think outside of a rare, the only non-rare that would have been better is Cranial Plating. That's exactly the card I want to see. And that'll pop out the Otherworldly Journey. Here, I mean, Fortify? Maybe? I mean, Somber Hoverguard puts me on how many cards that care about artifacts. Tajnar doesn't actually care about artifacts because I already have the artifacts I'm looking for. I don't know that I need like a 5-drop here. Maybe I do. It's not an artifact though. It doesn't care about artifacts. I'm gonna take it. Summer Regard is the card that I think can wheel. I don't think it's that strong. Personally. Okay, so these packs are significantly weaker. Like I said, I'm not going to run multiple Kite Sails. I'm not going to run Skyreach Manta. Telling time's too slow for what I'm trying to do on turn 2, so I'm going to take Clay Phalanx. Probably not going to run it though. Cathodian, perfect. Super happy to see that guy. And Flare Husk, I'm just basically going to pick artifacts here. And I'm not going to be super discerning because I really have the removal. This type of deck, I really have the removal on lockdown. 5 great removal spells here. I'm pretty happy with, especially considering I have some Mortar Pods to help me win, some like trade up, that type of thing. And I have some card advantage. Another Cathodian. I do not like Frogmite at all. There's almost no scenarios where I'll run the card. I don't think that the downside is so bad and the upside is fairly mediocre. So I don't really see the point in running it. My like actual 2-drops in Affinity, I would prefer to actually 2-drop, like Glinthawk Idol and that type of thing. So another Fairy Mechanist. I mean, couldn't be happier with that. I think this is the Dispatch pack coming up. I think. I could actually be wrong. I think it actually should have been that pack where the Dispatch should have been available. So another Cathodian. That's kind of funny. So I pass on a Cathodian. I end up with 3 of them, which is absolutely fantastic for what I'm doing. I'll hit on a Devouring Greed because I'm not going to run Mighty Leap. My deck is certainly good enough to not run that type of thing. So let's look at non-artifact spells that I'm going to run, or that I would like to run. I mean, this probably puts me at 8, which isn't the greatest. I'm going to have to cut some of those. I think Hikari Twilight Guardian can go now, since I got a second Glinthawk Idol, and I got a bunch of well-costed 3-drops, and I got Muldrifter. It's a nice little flyer, and Spectral Procession, and 3 Fairy Mechanists. I don't know that I just need like a big flying beater. I don't think that that's really what my deck is going for. And it also brings down my curve significantly. So I go to group separately, and I say Dispatch, Sunlance. And I sort of do it like this. And then I say Artifact Time. This puts me on 19 artifacts, which is super, super good. I will happily cut this Kite Sail at this point and run everything else. This puts me on 27. I'm probably not running Tajmar, probably not running Kami of the Ancient Law. This takes me down to 25. So I need to make 1 cut. If I have Muldrifter, is Thoughtcast expendable? That's a real question. I could go down to 17. I think that's a little bit risky though. And I think I can go with 16 lands pretty happily. So I think Spectral Procession is just too good as a flying threat, especially considering I'm not real heavy on blue. If I'm looking at blue, I'm on 5. Although on white, I'm also only on 5. God, is that the card I cut? It feels bad to cut Spectral Procession, which is just such a great card. Dispatch, Sunlance, Arrest. I definitely want the removal suite. Do I cut a Mirror Enforcer? I don't know that I do. Takes me down to 17. This is hard. So for card advantage, I'm looking at 4 cards already. I could just cut Thoughtcast and go to 16 lands. Say 9, 6. Something like that. I'll run out with that. I'll see you in game 1.